people, this video is about Montreal. We've been there from Toronto, and I want to tell you my opinion about the city, comparing Toronto with Montreal. Difference and realities, in my opinion. Why not starting about the price? In Montreal, we saw that prices are cheaper, at least for renting, than here in Toronto. On the other hand, if you see in general, the tax you pay in Montreal are like 19%, and here in Toronto you pay 13%. So at the end of the day, when you make the balance, I don't know if Montreal was still cheaper, but like in general, the price like on the supermarket and even checking real estate websites, we saw that Montreal is cheaper. Another thing we noticed in Montreal that the streets are more narrow than here. Toronto has like big streets, especially on highways. You have like, I don't know, huge highways, and in Montreal it's not the same. It's like tiny teeny comparing to Toronto, but it is a smaller city, so it makes sense, right? And then coming from Toronto, we saw even on the highway that people were like speeding so much, but when we entered Quebec, when we entered Montreal, people started respecting like the speed limit and things like that. And even on the street signs, we saw people being more respectful in Montreal with the traffic in general. And yes, if you go there, you will see that everything's in French. Montreal has the signs in French, the billboards in French. Sometimes, especially downtown Montreal, you will see bilingual signs, but going to other cities around Montreal, you barely see English. However, it's important to stress that there are some neighborhoods that they are only English speaker. Of course, someone that doesn't speak English can live there, but like it's a neighborhood that you will know that people there will speak English. So the signs and everything around that neighborhood, when people see each other on the street, they will say hi, hello, how are you, instead of saying bonjour as it is in the other parts of Montreal usually. But in our experience, going to pubs and bars, restaurants, people are bilingual usually. Downtown Montreal. When we wanted to order something, we ordered in English and people could understand us. And talking about people, we thought that people in Montreal, they are more organized, like they take care of their appearance comparing to Toronto. These all are my assumptions about my experience, about things I saw. It doesn't mean that it's the truth, but in my reality, this is what I saw when I was there. And something else I saw there is that the public transportation seems to work better in Montreal than here in Toronto. I say this because if you want to go from east to west Toronto, that's huge, but public transportation will take you in almost 2 hours. And in the time we spent in Montreal to do, let's say, the same thing, going from east to west of the city, it took us less time because we had to wait less, and the trains, bus, subway was coming one after the other so frequently. And you know what? We just noticed that in Quebec, people seem to like football so much. Here in Toronto, the main things like baseball, basketball, hockey, but not that much American football. But in Quebec, every place we went, there was like a TV showing games, and when we passed on the streets, people were playing as well. So we felt like, oh my God, people really love American football here. And looking to the city in general, Montreal has buildings, but not tall, not the skylines we have here in Toronto. And around the city, we could see lots of free parking that you barely see here in Toronto, especially going downtown. Comparing downtown Montreal, downtown Toronto, downtown Montreal, you see like parkings everywhere, especially free. And here in Toronto, you see parkings, of course, but free, I'm not sure. But definitely it called our attention about the green side of the city. Toronto has more green than Montreal. Toronto has many trees. Wherever you go, you see parks. In Montreal, we have parks, but not that many trees as I saw. But one thing for sure, when you are there in Montreal, you know that you are in Quebec. They make sure to show you every corner you see a flag from Quebec or from Montreal. Here in Toronto, you see here and there Canadian flags, but not like Ontario's flag, Toronto flags that I I don't know if we have like a flag for Toronto or for Ontario, but definitely we have a flag for Montreal, the city, and for Quebec, and they make sure to show you this, like every corner you see flags. And the funny thing we saw in Montreal was that in the garage, people has kind of a shelter or an extra garage for their cars to protect it, like it's a plastic thing. But here in Toronto, we don't see it often, but it seems to be a thing over there, at least in Montreal, probably in Ottawa as well. Maybe because they have more snow than we have here in Toronto. But still, we were driving and on the streets, we could see that almost every house had one. And we went to Montreal to visit our friends that lived there for almost 4 years. And they were sharing with us some stories they have. And one of them was saying that they don't greet on the elevators. And I was like, how so? And I remember when we arrived, there was someone with us in the lift. And I was like, hi, good morning. And I think I said, bonjour, bonjour. Just that. The person didn't reply. And I was like, oh, but maybe the person, I don't know, that didn't want to or something like that. But then our friend said, oh, no one says like bonjour, or no one's, say any compliments in the elevators. I was like, oh, because here in Toronto, you will see people having like small talks even. Like I live in the 15th floor, and sometimes I come from the garage to my flat, and if someone is with me, they will comment about the weather. They will say something about, I don't know, my outfit. Not a bad thing, but saying, oh, it's cold, so now we have to wear, hats. Oh, I like your hat. Or, yeah, this and that. Small talks in general. This happens so often here. And when you leave the elevator here in Toronto, it's common you say, have a nice day, have a good one, or things like that. But in Montreal, you enter, you leave. If you don't know the person, apparently you don't talk. And the last but not least about this comparison is that when we were there, the temperature was like feeling like -3 Celsius, but driving back from Montreal here to Toronto, it was a 6 hours, road trip. When we arrived here in Toronto, the temperature was 15 Celsius. So we were like from -3 Celsius to 15 Celsius. It was like a huge difference. And I know it's far, but it's not like Brazil and Canada, right? So the difference was huge, even though the space wasn't, that huge for me in my head, in my mind. But yeah, just sharing. So I don't know if this all made sense for you or not. I hope it did. Again, this was my experience. I want to share with you what I have been living and seeing around here. Let me know, please, in the comments below if you have something different about Montreal or maybe about Toronto. If you have a different opinion, let me know. Thanks for watching and see you on my next video. Bye.